tale of Satyavan and Savitri is recited in the Mahabharata as a story of conjugal love conquering death. You can hear me loud and clear?
Yes.
But this legend is, as shown by many features of the human tale, one of the many symbolic myths of the Vedic cycle. Satyavan is the soul carrying the divine truth of being within itself, but descended into the grip of death and ignorance. Savitri is the divine word, daughter of the sun, goddess of the supreme truth, who comes down and is born to save. Aswapati, the lord of the horse, her human father, is the Lord of Tapasya, the concentrated energy of spiritual endeavor that helps us to rise from the mortal to the immortal planes. Dyumatsena, Lord of the shining hosts, father of Satyavan, is the divine mind here fallen blind, losing its celestial kingdom of vision, and through that loss, its kingdom of glory. Still, this is not a mere allegory. The characters are not personified qualities, but incarnations or emanations of living and conscious forces with whom we can enter into concrete touch. And they take human bodies in order to help man and show him the way from his mortal state to a divine consciousness and immortal life. Shrikant?
Yes. The first time I read this, I was just completely blown away, because this is whole philosophy. This is the kind of the most concentrated version of philosophy that I've come across. Firstly, because it hits all of human experience, all the concepts to deal with human experience. And secondly, it dramatizes it with characters. So it is high art and high philosophy all in one, in a single paragraph.
So let's just talk about the author's note for a few minutes and then proceed to the discussion.
Sure.
Now, this note actually was not written as an author's note. It's the publishers of the book have called it the author's note, but the note was written in response to a letter of a disciple in the 1930s. And Sri Aurobindo just basically some question was asked and this was the response. And later on, it kind of was, as Shrikant said, chosen as the author's note by the publisher because it just fitted that way. But he didn't write it as an author's note. So that's the historical background. Now, the Vedas, he refers to the Vedic point. The Vedas, we have to understand, used symbolism to convey higher and hidden truths. And in that age, which was called the symbolic age, symbolism was the portal through which human beings could access higher realities without getting bound by the trenchancy of the written word. This is a very important point. So that is the backdrop of this whole composition. Not just the actual story of Savitri and the historical precedent of Savitri, but also this particular text and the way it is supposed to be read as a symbolic tale. This is very important. Now, what he says, what does he say here in the author's note? The first thing he says is that the ultimate power in the universe is love. This is probably not unknown to us, even though we may not know the full significance of what that love means. But he makes a categorical statement that the ultimate power is love. And if this love is recovered in its full power and glory, it can defeat the most inexorable law of nature, which is death. This is the first message. Man carries the divine spark within himself, but is usually a slave of nature, as if a misadventure of consciousness due to his entry, or rather birth, into material reality. So we are all like that. That's us. From this misadventure, the Divine Mother comes down to rescue man through the vibrational power of the sun-vast truth word. Sun-vast truth word. That's why Savitri she's referred to as the word. The word conveys the vibrational power which actually is considered to be the source of creation. In Vedic physics, it is literally the case. Now, so the vibrational power of the sun-vast because Savitri is the daughter of Savitar, who is the sun god who was invoked by Savitri's mortal father to bring her down to earth, right? So that aspect is Savitri saving Satyavan. But she herself, as in Savitri herself, has to be invoked through the ascesis of the Lord of the Yoga to establish a strong foundation to receive her. So the Lord of the Horse, which Aswapati is referred to, horse symbolizes the energism of the life force. You know, there's a term called horsepower in physics, which conveys energy, right? Usually, this horsepower, this life energy is very difficult to control, which is why we are normally out of sync with energy. Energy controls us rather than we controlling energy. So the Lord of the Tapasya and the Lord of the Horse is one who has mastered the energies of nature. That is Aswapati. And tapas is the heat of the sacrificial fire of the tapasya, where the lower nature in us or in Aswapati has been sacrificed to the higher. It is very intense and very difficult tapasya, especially if we have to climb to the complete heights of the planes of consciousness. Only one who, so what is being shown here is that only one who has mastered the life energies can father the divine grace in human form.
Wow.
This is the implication.
Wow.
So that is, so in the story when we say Aswapati brings Savitri down and receives her as a boon from the sun god, which those who know the story will understand what I'm saying. This is the significance, that to even ask the divine mother or the divine feminine to descend to earth to save man, a huge yagna is necessary. And that is performed by Ashwapati. Ashwapati. Ashwa is horse. Pati is Lord. Okay. Now, the stumbling of the mental consciousness of humanity is represented by the loss of light. Usually Indra has been considered as the deity of mental illumination. That is why the term shining hosts. This loss is what Savitri's sadhana restores for Dyumatsena in the story. But the symbolic meaning is that man's loss from his mental consciousness is revived and he is taken beyond the mind by the sadhana or the yoga of the Divine Mother in him or in us, should we consent to participate in the yoga. So it's not just the sight, it's the sight in a literal and a metaphorical sense. And when he regains his sight, he regains his bearings, his orientation, himself, which is symbolized as the regaining of his kingdom or his destiny.
Mm-hmm.
The last part of the author's note indicates that behind the scenes, phenomenal existence as we know it is actually a vast interplay of various cosmic forces on which our mortal bodies, or of which our mortal bodies are materializations. And what we call ourselves by names, what we see as world events, are actually just the superficial renditions of a tumultuous interplay of cosmic forces. This is a very, very important point, and this is what he mentioned in the last part. Occultism in Europe, as is known, basically is the whole discipline that deals with the existence of these secret, mysterious, and supernatural agencies with which human beings can communicate and interact to harness and manipulate the hidden powers of nature. This is also called Tantra in the East. But as popularly understood, there are various falsehoods that have crept into these terms, and they have lost their path. But Sri Aurobindo is referring to occultism and Tantra in its highest sense. So at the conclusion of this note, what we have to, if we have to take away one point, we have to, because this is the context of the integral yoga, which we covered in our previous session. So when we say cosmic forces, yoga, unlike the traditional normal yogas of, body postures and breathing, and they are very, very superficial. In the real secret spiritual sense, yoga can be understood as a round the clock 24-hour workout in the psychological gymnasium with these world forces and powers. But unlike occultism in Europe and several misguided parts of Tantra, this exercise, this workout in the gymnasium is not done for the self with the small s, but to serve the self with the capital S. That is a quick overview of the author's note.
Wow.